Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Marvel Plus, the podcast devoted to all things MCU. My name is Brett Scott. I am your host, and this, my friends, is the show. And we're back again, second day in a row, to cover What If Season 2. And today, I have the distinguished guest, Steve Banvard is here once again.
Hey,
Steve,
Brett,
how you doing, man?
Doing good, man. It's good to be back in the chair.
Yeah, it's funny because you hit me up yesterday saying like, yeah, man, I'll do an episode. And I'm like, I don't know, Steve. I don't know, man. Because if the listeners don't know, if you're not familiar with Steve, if you haven't listened to his episodes, then you probably won't know that Steve is notorious for very long podcasting episodes because he's a very thorough and in-depth thinker and orator. So I think, don't you hold like the record on Ryan Fraseri's podcast, the Talking Snick podcast, for like a 3.5 hour podcast about one episode of X-Men the Animated Series?
I think I hold the record for both number one spot and number two back to back. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I remember last time I was on, because mine are notoriously long with him as well. But I remember the last time he had you on and then had me on after. He goes, "Hey, man, you going to try to beat Steve's record?" I was like, no, I'm not even going to attempt it. That's insanity. 3.5 hours. What are you, Joe Rogan? What are you doing?
Yeah, you're being very kind. You've been saying I'm very thorough. You know, another way of saying
You
it's
are.
just I long-winded. I talk a lot, very bloated. I get it. It's all right. But to save some effort here, I've limited myself to just a single page of notes. Unlike the
one page.
I know.
Are we talking like legal pad, or are we talking like, what's this page look like?
In high school where you could write down anything and take it to your test, but it had to be on a single page. So it's 6 font back and forth, double space, and yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Both sides.
Both sides. That's right.
Yeah. So yeah, dude, it's a crazy schedule. I'm trying to do this day by day through the Christmas holiday. There's no guarantees that I'm going to be able to pull this off, but I'm going to give it my damnedest. And I appreciate you hopping in to help me do that. Because I don't know, some of these I might have to do solo. Like, people got lives, man. They got Christmases and families and Hanukkahs and things to attend, right?
Yeah, it's not so much the watching the episodes that I can do. They're short episodes, 30 minutes long. It's getting a half hour worth of time where the house is like quiet from screaming kids, and it's that recording time that is hard to manage, because you just gotta like figure it out. I could do it late at night, but you've got the schedule you've got to stick to. Like, you got to drop these episodes in between each episode coming out. So yeah, I don't envy you for that, Brett. It's tough.
Yeah. I mean, you're right about fitting it. You're right about fitting it in. As you can see, I'm in my car. My bus back to the holiday season. So, and then tomorrow we got the big family dinner and everything. So yeah, I gotta fit it in. I'm trying to keep these short. Trying to keep them stuff too, because that's my podcast kind of goes a lot of times like wherever it goes. But yeah, like, big thanks to you, big thanks to my guest Maggie yesterday, and all the other people who have reached out and said, hey, I'll do an episode. Here we are. So episode 2. First of all, like I did with Maggie yesterday, I'll ask you, what did you think of just the premise? Going in, you don't know nothing about it. You don't know how they're going to portray it, but you just see that title of what if Peter Quill took on the Avengers? Like, what? Were you immediately interested in this story, or what?
Well, so I loved the What If season 1, right? I like the art style. I think it has a very unique and consistent art style, right? So right there, you got me hooked. and seeing, season 2 looks like the same art house. So I think there's some nice consistency with that. We'll get some nice character development. And then what if Peter Quill attacked Earth's mightiest heroes? Well,
Yeah.
The Guardians of the Galaxy movies are one of the, or 3 of the strongest films in the MCU, right? I
sure.
think Guardians 1 and 2 are ranked right up there with Captain America movies and the Avenger movies, right? So
as a trilogy,
as
a trilogy, like if you stand that up against other trilogies or quadrilogies when it comes to the Thor storyline, it's solid. It's like that and the Captain America trilogy at the top, everything else underneath those.
Right. So this episode in particular leads heavily into Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. So for those 2 movies, they're right up there in my top 5, top 6 of all time. So that's great to be watching this episode with that background.
Yeah, I will say that with the premise, I did not expect what we got. Like, I was definitely expecting our mainstream, 21st century Avengers. But this concept of going back and having this happen when Peter Quill was a child still, and that completely threw me for a loop. And the fact that there were no Avengers, because this is 1988, they quickly assemble this Avengers 88 team. It's fantastic, dude. That's what made this episode so intriguing, is putting together this Avengers team before the Avengers were ever a thing. What would it have looked like 20 to 30 years? Yeah, 30 years beforehand. What would it have looked like if the Avengers were assembled then? And I loved it, man. You got King T'Chaka rather than T'Challa. Peggy Carter is there, although I feel like Peggy Carter would be a little older than they portrayed her
right.
in this series. But I'll allow it because it was so cool to see this this different Avengers team. What'd you think of that? Just the idea that Peter Quill is a kid, they used that time frame, and that they assembled a different Avengers team.
Yeah, I knew immediately that it was a young Peter Quill because he's got that same T-shirt. That T-shirt, that design that he had in that first movie, and that keeps coming back. So I like that. And then we got a glimpse of Hank Pym and the Wasp, Janet Van Dyne. We got those. There's a whole background where they were heroes at one point, and then they have since retired. So there is precedence for this secret team, this pre-Avengers team, and I wanted more. I wanted to see more. So that little hint that there could be more is what this what if episode is. Let's flush that out a little bit more and see what that looks like.
And so cool the choices that they made, right? Of course, in 1988, I never would have thought to do it in my head if it were me coming up with the concept. But the Winter Soldier, of course, the Winter Soldier. Of course, Cold War era weapon from Russia is going to be part of this, right? That was brilliant. Didn't see that coming at all. And because another cool thing about Winter Soldier is he's still the same age that we know him as. So all these other characters are different ages. You got younger versions of characters, older versions of Peggy Carter. And then you get with the Winter Soldier who just never ages, right? I feel like Paul Rudd should have been cast as Winter Soldier because it would have been way more accurate. He just doesn't age from the 90s to now. But yeah, overall concept though, I want to know what you thought of this, because I've actually, without maybe saying it out loud, I have definitely pondered what would have happened if Yondu handed over Peter Quill to his father at a young age. I've thought about that. What would this have been like? Because after I saw Guardians 2, it makes you think man, his life could have been way different if he was raised by this dude. And so what main plot device here is like, really, it's not what if Peter Quill took on the Earth's Mightiest Heroes. It's like, what if Ego raised Peter Quill, or what if Yondu handed Peter Quill over to Ego? What do you think of just that in general as a setup for this world?
Well, if you go back to season 1, episode 2, it was what if T'Challa became Star-Lord?
Yes.
Right? So what if Yondu had picked up a young T'Challa before he became Black Panther, and
yes,
that character became Star-Lord instead, raised by Yondu. And so both the first season and second season, you're taking this. All right, what if Star-Lord was a different character? What if Star-Lord was either this person, or what if he was raised by a different person? And I love, I like that parallel storytelling between season 1 and season 2. Let's really explore this, and I think it did a great job. Ego is he's not really flushed out. He's like this maniacal, evil being that just wants to take over the universe. That's his whole goal.
Yeah.
And there's not much more to that. But you throw in Peter Quill, this little 8-year-old boy, into the mix, and suddenly you start thinking about father-son, daddy issues. And it always goes back to what happened to Peter's mom. Ego ended up killing her and causing her death. And that's really the catalyst. I mean, if there's a canon event, it's the death of Peter's mom that sets everything else in motion. So it's really interesting to kind of play with that dichotomy in multiple seasons, across multiple seasons, and that's great. And Star-Lord is one of my favorite characters, and he's got a good line at the end of this episode. I'll save it, but he little 8-year-old Star-Lord comes into his own in this episode.
I feel like you're right on with the death of Peter Quill's mother, and the fact that Ego is the cause of her death, is kind of like one of those anchoring points, or whatever they call them, like you said, like a canonized thing. But it's a thing that kind of happens in a lot of universes, obviously, where that is why he becomes who he becomes. That's why he eventually turns on Ego. No matter what happens in any universe, whether Ego meets him as a child or Ego doesn't meet him until he's a middle-aged man, as soon as Peter finds out his mother's death was Ego's fault, it's over. That relationship's done. There's no convincing Peter anymore to go the way of Ego, the living plant.
That's right.
So so they assemble this team, and I want to talk about this a little bit, because it's the ragtag team that they throw together kind of way quicker than they ever threw together the Avengers. Like, it seemed like it took a little while to assemble the Avengers in the early aughts, right? But this team, they threw together on the fly, because an empowered Peter Quill, kind of not really in control of these powers fully, and not very mature. He's a child with superhuman godlike powers. He comes to Earth, and really he just wants to get home, but he's causing all this damage, all this destruction, and has been kind of told by his father that, like, he's a god, so he doesn't know how to be with these powers, right? It's very much like in the X-Men, right? The Professor Xavier teach these people to harness their abilities, and then use them for good, rather than just being selfish with their powers, or not knowing how to control them and being a danger to society. Very similar type of storyline. But I love that
you mentioned the team. So the team, we got Dr. Wendy Lawson, so the original Marvel, right? Dr. Hank Pym, the Ant-Man. Dr. Bill Foster, Giant Man. King T'Chaka, Black Panther. Bucky Barnes, the Winter Soldier. And then kind of leading that, or the two humans of the group, Howard Stark, and Peggy Carter. And,
Yeah.
and I get halfway through,
Yes. Interesting.
Thor shows up. I'll mention Thor shows up.
Yes.
He's the one character
Yes.
that
That's one.
He's the one character that I didn't really thought fit with this group. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Well, I think you're right in that everyone else was a different version. You know what I mean? Like Thor was Thor. Thor came in and he was, and I feel like I get it because he's another character you can bring in that would be the same age and the same, like, you know, he'd be able to help them out. But I think you're right. I think like maybe even bring in a different Asgardian. You know what I mean? Like could have done that. Like you know, there's a world where, you know, there's a Sylvie character out there, right? Like maybe bring in a character like that or someone we haven't interacted with. Bring in what's her name? The one who leads New Asgard. Or Sif.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you're right. I think it's too like he's like the normal character. Like we're used to him. It's not as fun as meeting all these different versions of characters that could be. You know, Howard Stark's dad instead of, or Tony Stark's dad instead of Tony Stark. Like Peggy Carter instead of Captain America. And I also think it's interesting that they just have regular ass humans like on the team. Like, you know, there's nothing enhanced or special about them at this point. Like this doesn't seem to be the Captain Carter. This just seems to be Peggy Carter.
That's right. There's 3 doctors on the team, right? Very science oriented, science heavy. But those 3 doctors, I don't think they have actual power. So Marvel had like a jetpack, right? So she could fly around, but she didn't, you know, shoot rays out of her fists or anything. Ant-Man's got the shrinking technology, but he himself is just a human. And same with Giant Man. He can, enlarge himself, but he himself is just a human.
So yeah, I found that interesting too. Rather than having a character like our modern day Ant-Man who can shrink and grow large, they went with bringing in Giant Man to kind of to pair him up with Hank Pym's Ant-Man character. And I found that interesting. Like, we've never even known about a Giant Man in the MCU, correct? Like, I don't think there's ever been a mention of a Giant Man.
Yeah, I don't know if they actually meant. We definitely haven't seen, so we've seen Bill Foster, but he never did anything spectacular like grow large.
Right.
If he had a line, maybe he had a line in that movie where he was working on different particles than Hank was, but
he was not Giant Man.
Right.
Right. We've never had any implication that there was ever a Giant Man. But I find it cool.
Yeah.
They still wanted the ability to have a growing and a shrinking character rather than just one guy. They just had 2 guys.
I do like bringing these characters back. So a lot of these characters we've only seen once in this form, right? We've only seen Wendy Lawson once, one movie.
Yep.
We've only seen Bill Foster once, right? We've only seen the young King T'Challa once. And in terms of young Peter Quill, we've only seen once in Guardians of the Galaxy 1. And young Hope. I should mention young Hope. We've only seen once. And she's a pivotal part of this team as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, because, I thought it was kind of cool because they were basically they're bringing it back to X-Men again. Like they Avengers team, this Earth's Mightiest Heroes, like they had an immense fear of Peter Quill, and so they it took this child, Hope Van Dyne, to like recognize that, oh, he's a kid like me. He's just a kid. Like, he doesn't want to hurt anybody. Like, he just wants to go home. Like, you know, and so it was like this this fear they had of him and what he was capable of led them to imprison him, much like X-Men. Like, you have the government, you know, they want to register everyone. They want to imprison these people. Like, they want to make sure that to stifle their powers and things like that, or get rid of their powers. It's all fear-based. It's like racism, right? It's like, it's all fear-based stuff. Fear what you don't understand. But I like that they capture him, they throw him in this cell, and I love that she recognizes this, and then the way she helps him break out is with the Pym particles, which I thought was cool. You know, shrinking down the whole prison and just taking it out.
Yeah, there goes Hope. You know, it kind of references what she will become later. You know, she'll become the Wasp, and you use the Pym particles herself. So she's doing it at a young age here.
Yeah, and just kind of being like a headstrong, like, she's just going to make the decision and do it her way. Like, you know, she didn't ask anyone. She didn't really plead with any. She just set him free, and then she told everyone, like, he's just a kid, you know. But she knew it was right, and she did it. Still could have been pretty dangerous. Like, if he had not been eventually faced with the information, or given the information that Ego was responsible for his mother's death, things could have went badly. But like I said, that's kind of like this anchoring moment in all the worlds we've seen thus far. It turns Peter against his father. So that was kind of like the catalyst for him basically becoming the Star-Lord that we know. Although way more powerful than we're used to seeing him. We've seen him get that powerful like that one time, right? Maybe twice. We saw him in Guardians 2 do that. And that's kind of how this ends as well, right? This is him using his powers to wipe out his father. And I loved all the, I don't even know what you call them, like dupes, like all the replicas of, you know, him, of Ego made out of rock. I loved that visual of them all coming up from the ground. My daughter said it looked like he looks like Sandman from Spider-Man. I'm like, yeah, I guess it kind of does. But yeah, I mean, that's having Ego come to Earth was pretty damn cool too. Like, because that's not something we've seen other than when he met Quill's mother. We've never seen him come and attack the Earth. So pretty cool.
By setting up the final battle between father and son, you know, Ego and Peter Quill, right? The whole episode was kind of leading up to the father and son dynamic, and you know, MCU has you know, daddy issues throughout.
It does, you know, yes.
They mention here, you know, Howard's talking about his boy Tony being kind of a hellion, and he makes the mention that blame it on the absentee father, you know, Howard being the absentee father. And then with Hank and Hope, you see it, their relationships kind of struggling because, you know, ever since the death of Janet. And so you have these dynamics throughout the episode. Very
teenagers,
clearly.
man.
Yeah. And at the very end, you have Howard is talking to Bucky. Bucky's about to shoot, you know, the Winter Soldier's about to shoot Peter Quill. And you have Howard talking to him, talking it out. And at the exact same time, Hank is talking to Peter Quill in person. He's talking face to face. And I love it that these dads, these, you know, troubled dads, you know, they don't have the best relationship with their own children, but these troubled dads recognize what it takes to save the day. Dad saved the day.
Yeah. I love when dads get to be the heroes, man. I think And I think, yeah, that was the turning point. It's like him showing Peter like some love, like gives him a hug, and it all turns around. It's like that the realization that Ego, his the only dad he knows, is a terrible person. I mean, if that was your only frame of reference for what a father was, no matter what happens after that, things could go badly. Even if he faces off with his dad, destroys him, whatever, like he's gonna be like, I came from this. This is who I, am. But so those two things together, I guess, are what really turned Peter to the side of good, I guess. He was teetering. Like he's a kid, as we said. All he needed was to be shown love and shown what a father should be like comforting, giving him a hug when he needs it. Like that's not what Ego is about. So it was like he got this example of what a father could be, along with the juxtaposition of like the terrible person a father could be, and he chose like the side of light. So yeah, man, dads for the win.
And then after Ego's defeated, there's a nice little coda at the end where they're all hanging out at the house and just relaxing, having beers, and I love when the Avengers have downtime, right?
Yeah.
And that's the best part of Age of Ultron is when they're just hanging out in the tower,
Yep.
and talking the shit.
Trying to pick up Mjolnir. Like that party is one of the greatest of all the Avengers films. Like it's one of the greatest scenes of all the characters together. Them just chilling out, maxing, relaxing, all cool, right?
And it is a very uplifting ending. A lot of these what ifs have
Yes.
horrible endings where you're
Yes.
just like filled with dread, like, oh God, what's going to happen next? This one was very happy. They form this team, even like, Thor says, I got to go off and do the universe justice. And they're like, oh, wait a minute, were they Thunder Brother?
Yeah.
We're a team. And they walk off as a team. Even the two kids walk off with the team. And I love that it's such a happy ending, such an uplifting ending to this episode.
Yeah.
I want to see more of this team, this 1988 Avengers. I want to see more.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I was talking in the last episode about how that's what I love about this series is whether you like it or don't like it, like each episode, it's like you don't have to sit through an entire series to figure out whether you like it or don't like it. But the ones that are really good, you're like, man, I would not mind seeing more of this. Like, and that tells you that it was a really good choice. That what they did with that idea was a really good idea. And you're not likely ever going to get to see that series play out, but it lets you imagine. And the ones you don't like, whatever, you drop them and move on. You don't dwell on them. But the ones that are really good, they stick with you, and you're like, man, that would be a cool world. Like, I'd love to see, maybe they'll put out a mini, like a 4-issue mini of the Avengers 88. Like that, I'd be interested in reading.
I love just that you were able to bring back some of these voice actors, the actors that played them in the movie. So you got Annette Bening, Michael Douglas, Lawrence Fishburne, Kurt Russell, Hallie Atwell, everyone loves, John Slattery, all these people that were made the character originally. They were able to come back and do this voice work, and I love, you wouldn't think that these, a lot of these veteran actors would ever be coming to join a single project. But this What If series gives them that opportunity, and I really do love that.
Yeah, and I think maybe part of the appeal is that it's not a huge commitment, right? It's a one-off episode here or there where all they have to do is record voice. They can probably do it remotely, might even be able to do it from home. Like it's it's probably an easy decision for them to go, yeah, I'll be a part of that. Like, it's not only is it a paycheck, I get to have fun acting, and I get to do, like, I no big commitment to it. They could be, shooting another movie at the time and still probably fit this into their schedule. So I think it's great, and that's one of my favorite things about the What If series is the fact that they do use so many of the original stars from the films. And it's really cool when they go for the more obscure ones, the ones who are no longer appearing in the films, and use them. Like, I don't know if this will ever happen, but like, I'd love to see if they go back, say they went back to like the original Rhodey for like an old story. I think that would be cool to see. Bringing in what's his name now? I'm blanking on his name. The original Rhodey. Anyway, I'm sure you're Googling it, but you know who I'm talking about. Bringing him back, bringing someone like that back, but they do it with these other characters, like you said, the Forrester character they brought back. Bringing in characters like T'Chaka, who's no longer living in our present day MCU, bringing that actor back. I just think it's great to be able to revisit these characters and actually have the voice that you recognize behind it.
And it also gives the characters themselves, a little more longevity, because you only saw them in like a single scene originally, or just a series. This actually like flushes out those characters a little bit more and gives them a little more breadth. And I thought it was a great episode. I thought it was good. 7 out of 10 stars. Is that my review?
Yeah,
I did like this episode. It was I was glad I was on for this one.
Yeah. No, I feel the same way. I really enjoyed the episode. Like, 2 out of 2 for me so far. Like, at episode 1, I thought was good. This episode I thought was good. And like I said, when I first started talking about this series, I wasn't expecting a lot out of it based on the titles alone. They're not blowing me away with these titles, but the concepts are great. Once you get into them, it's like, oh, I didn't know that's what this meant. And so it's a surprise. So far, every time it's surprised the hell out of me. And I'm like pumped for the next episode. And as much as I think it's quite a grind to review these day by day for 9 days in a row through Christmas, I am happy I get a brand new one tomorrow.
That's right. You got a guest lined up?
I've got a couple people who have volunteered. Nothing is in stone. I'm keeping it loosey-goosey. You know how I do, guerrilla style approach to podcasting. I like to keep it loose. I like to keep it crazy.
Hey,
so yeah,
yeah, keep going.
So far, 2 out of 2. Steve, thank you so much, man, as always, for coming on. And I guess they were wrong. You can podcast for like 30 minutes or less.
All those haters out there.
I didn't believe it. Ryan Fraseri said there's no way. There is no way he's going to be in and out in 30 minutes. But yeah, thank you so much. If there's anything you want to connect people with so they can follow you on social media or what have you.
I've finished reviewing all of 188 episodes of the Uncanny Xcast. So I've been busy on their Facebook page if you want to learn more about that. That was a 1.5-year project that I now closed the book on. I'm pretty happy about that one.
Dude, that's an incredible feat. And I'm like, I don't know how you found the time to do it, but bravo. You did, like, you went, when I was talking about you're very detail oriented earlier and thorough, that is at its finest, like breaking down those episodes in the comment threads below each episode posting. Incredible work. So thank you for doing it, because if we ever do want to like go back in the archives and find out what happened when, all we have to do is look at Steve Manbard's post in the Uncanny Xcast Facebook group. So I appreciate that.
I'm keeping it alive. We
Yes.
gotta love our podcasts because that's
Yes.
who we are.
Indeed. I only hope that someday, 20 years from now, someone will do the same thing for my show, and I'll be immortalized as well. One can dream. But thank you again, Steve. And hey, man, if I need to call on you for another episode, which might happen, are you going to be available here in the next week and a half?
Yeah. Give me a shout out.
Awesome. I appreciate it as always. All right, man. I'll talk to you later.
All right, thanks, Brett.